Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk animated shows and movies here, especially Miraculous Ladybug and The Owl House. Find everything about us at overlyanimated.com. I'm your host, Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
And Alex Bonilla.
Hello.
Today we are talking the recent HBO Max series, season 1 miniseries. I don't know, we can talk about that. Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake. That's the last episodes of dropped, a week or two ago, and we are going to be talking about the whole season here. There are 10 episodes out for it, and we will be getting into spoilers for the entire season of Fionna and Cake. However, before that, if someone wants to know whether they should check this out, and I think particularly like what level of Adventure Time knowledge do you need to watch this? What would you guys say?
I think at least knowing a general idea of Adventure Time and then at least maybe the finale of the show would be helpful for certain things. Not that knowing like every character matters a lot, but I don't know. If you're an extreme Adventure Time casual, and you've never even seen a Fionna and Cake episode in Adventure Time, I think this might be a interesting experience, and none of the Betty Simon stuff is going to make any sense at all.
I would say I would love to hear the perspective of somebody who hasn't watched Adventure Time and try to watch this. I think, if you're a casual, you'll be mostly fine, but if you have the urge to look up on YouTube like summaries of like Simon and Betty timeline or Farm World, what is that? Feel free to do that, because I think that will help you a lot with the stuff having the impact that I think it's going for.
Yeah, I don't remember Farm World, so we're going to talk about that. But I think a Fionna and Cake episode and the series finale, right? Those are probably
at least.
But honestly, I mean, it's already like a lot, and it talks about what it is. So I think it's worth it, even if you've like seen some Adventure Time, but not all. I just think it's important for this particular show. Like probably a lot of people have seen some, but not all. Because there's so much of Adventure Time. But I think we'll probably recommend coming up, but we are going to get into spoilers now for Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake. I just say that just because I'm surprised that Adventure Time is in the beginning of this title and it's not just called Fionna and Cake. But basically it's just Fionna and Cake. And so spoilers starting now for all of Fionna and Cake. And by the way, is this definitely just one season? Do we know yet?
I don't think we know for sure. And like we can talk finale stuff. They leave some threads that you could follow.
Definitely feels mini limited series to me.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
And I think that was how it was promoted for a while. It's just like as of recently, I feel like buzz is beginning like, hey, is there going to be more? But like when it was announced, I'm pretty sure it had limited series feel to it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, look, might as well. We can talk about what they could do, but why not season 2? If we can get a season 2 of anything, I think we'll take it. Like, let's just
yeah.
Okay. But let's all of season 1 of Fionna and Cake spoilers. Michelle, what do you think of the show?
Oh man, I knew pretty much nothing about the show before it dropped, so I was very curious. Seeing like when they do like the full intro song, I was just like, wait, what? They're in a normal world. What is happening? What is this show? But then when the trailer dropped, it was like, oh, okay, all right. Oh, they're gonna go out. They're gonna do stuff. There's gonna be characters we know and love. I love it. I was trying to think of where to rank it compared to say Distant Lands. And I think for me, I might like it more overall than the 4 episodes of Distant Lands. I think there are definitely some standout episodes of Distant Lands. But like this was so strong. And I'm kind of like, if Adventure Time is robust enough of a property that you can just do like contain miniseries for like ever, and they're this solid, maybe just keep doing that and never let it die. Because like I will say, when Adventure Time, when the finale was was dropping, internally at Cartoon, we weren't allowed to say that it was ending. They were like, no, the fun never ends. Like, and we're like, okay, but it is ending though. They're like, no, you can't say that. And then when Distant Lands came out, I was like, oh, okay. And then when Fionna and Cake came out, I was like, oh. So like, who knows how long Adventure Time properties can keep going. But I think like in the right hands, and I feel like these are in the right hands, it can be a wonderful thing, and it can skew older, which is also great because I feel like a lot of us have been wanting that for a while. Higher stakes, actually seeing blood happen, like some gruesome stuff, like very fun, and more existential crises and nuanced emotions for all the teens out there, you know? So I feel like that this show really has like all the things I love about, say, like something like Infinity Train, but in like a different Adventure Timey package, which is very enjoyable. I loved it. I thought it was extremely strong. I know some people have a lot of opinions about the finale, but personally, I enjoyed the whole ride, including the very end. I thought it was great.
Nice. Oh, I have not seen any opinions on the finale, so
maybe that's good. Yeah.
Recap them. Gore and existential emotions. That's basically what makes an adult show, right? Like, I guess we're here. Alex, what did you think of Fionna and Cake?
Let's not pretend original Adventure Time did not have existential crises. That's like Finn's arc for like the second half of the show. But in terms of Fionna and Cake, I really enjoyed it. I think that from the time that it was announced, it was always it always came out as like, man, that's the spin-off idea we're going with. Okay, like it's like a real like how are they gonna work with this, given it's like origins in the main show is like a fanficky thing. But I think they thread the needle really well here. I really enjoyed Fionna and Cake's arc in this show. I think they weaved in the Simon story pretty well and put a lot of things into main text that maybe had been subtext or at best like from theory crafting from the main show. So it was nice to get a full spotlight on that side of things. I thought it was just it made the Adventure Time humor remains the same. I feel like I got a lot of laughs from pretty much all the episodes. I thought there was some good there was some interesting metaphor usage, especially later in the show. Fionna and Cake, I had a really good time with it, and especially as somebody who's like watched all of Adventure Time, it does feel in a similar way to at least Obsidian and Together Again from the Distant Lands miniseries. It feels like worthy of like tying a bow on Adventure Time. I'm sure there's a strong possibility there will be more, but like if this ended up being the last of Adventure Time, I'd be happy with that too. Like that this was a nice way to like give respect to all the stuff that Adventure Time has built over its long run, and give it one final spotlight, although I'm sure it probably won't be a final spotlight for at least some of these.
Awesome. Yeah, I was definitely going to ask Alex as our Adventure Time lore expert, how this feels at this point in the show. So that's great to hear, and we can talk more about that too. I love Fionna and Cake. I was like surprised how much I love Fionna and Cake the entire season. I think this is one of my favorite Adventure Time things ever.
Yeah, fair.
I liked Distant Lands, like definitely some of the episodes, but I mean this feels like it. Like this feels like prime Adventure Time, honestly. I feel like this was the best storytelling that I can remember from Adventure Time since like the heyday of those kind of early mid seasons of Adventure Time. I don't know if that's like a hot take or what people think about this show, but I like so much of what they're doing. I think like the most notable thing is just that like what it is, like Michelle was getting into. It's just I also did not really know what this show, and the experience of watching like episodes 1 to 4 specifically before they finally explain what's going on in episode 4 is pretty wild. And I really liked that experience of just everything kind of happening. And even then, it's still a lot, seeing everything they're trying to do. I mean, I went in, I expected the Fionna and Cake episodes. I guess I didn't watch trailers, so maybe, I don't know if other people like had different expectations, but like I was expecting the Fionna and Cake episodes, and what we got was actually everything except for like Fionna and Cake episodes. Yeah. Like we specifically never have Fionna and Cake world like with magic like it was in the episodes. That's such a fascinating choice. I'm fascinated by the show as like a anti-property. I don't know what you would call it, but just like you do some spin-off of a thing and it's like completely different from what you're expecting here. I think they're trying to do so many different things at once here, which I was not expecting. And I think it's pretty successful, basically everything they're trying to do. And I really want to talk about each of the aspects that this show is, including just like a continuation of the show, like in the show's timeline, which is the biggest surprise for me. I don't know why I wasn't expecting that so much, just seeing Finn and everything.
Just a quick point to the talk of like this being the best storytelling that Adventure Time has done. I think a big piece of the show's history has been that for most of its run, it would always jump between different story arcs. So they would never follow one story for more than like 3 episodes at a time. Later on, you got the miniseries, but like even though it's like 5 episodes at most, like Stakes Islands and Elements, and then Distant Lands, right? It's just like little condensed pieces, a little longer episodes, but still just like episodes, not really arcs exactly. So I think that this is Adventure Time's like first true foray to like focusing on one story for this long. So I think that may help if you are inclined to enjoy continuous storytelling. Adventure Time has not really delivered in that sense because it never really aimed to do that. It wanted to be this kind of like episodic, like let's check in on everything happening in this universe, no matter what time it is. But this was a very focused run through the Adventure Time, while still like it did jump around a bunch of universes, but it had its focus of Fionna and Cake and Simon, and like we will see those through to the end.
Yeah, no, that's a great point to bring up. That this is like it seems like an evolution of their miniseries format, which they were trying through the end of the show's run into Distant Lands. But this is like half-an-hour episodes with the miniseries. So that I think was a pleasant surprise to see the longer episodes, and I thought it worked so well with this show. I don't know, it is definitely different than what the show is. And I don't think the fact that it is more continuous focused storytelling necessitates better or worse, I just think that it's different. That being said, I think I don't think they're going for like high level storytelling through a lot of adventures. I mean, they are, but like not in the same way that they are here. So it is a little weird to talk about, but I just think this is like way better than the miniseries from the show. This Fionna and Cake. Like that's one of my takes on this is like, and I like Stakes. Like I think that's great and stuff, but I think this is like far and away their best attempt at more condensed storytelling. And I think the longer episodes help, and I think this kind of format, because we say focused, and that leads kind of into the main kind of way I want to approach talking about the show. But I feel like this is like at least 3 different shows in one show is like what they're trying for. So I think here's my opinion. I think this is like partly Adventure Time future, like Steven Universe future.
A bit, yeah, for sure.
Partly what we thought it was, which is like a Fionna and Cake spinoff. And then partly I think a Simon and Betty backstory miniseries like shoved into this other show. It's like I feel like this is 3 different shows in one show, and that's not even to get into. I mean, we get to Shermie and Beth at the end. It's not as prominent of a thing. Everything with Prismo, but that's more of a framing, I think. And then there's all the Gary Marshall stuff, which I think you could include in the Fionna and Cakey spinoff. What did you guys think of like how many different things the show was trying to do, and how did it work for you?
I I mean, while I was watching it, I was pretty happy with the balance. I could see some people feeling like, well, it's called Fionna and Cake, you know, why is Simon and Betty like so prominent, huh? But it's like that stuff is so interesting. And it's some of the best, like a long-term payoff, I think, for people who are relatively invested in Adventure Time. Like that was one of the biggest things from the finale was that like they were separated. Simon's not Ice King anymore. That's a whole thing. That's just messy and interesting. And I feel like for me personally, I feel like there was plenty of focus for Fionna and Cake in tandem with Simon and Betty. I think I was like the most interested in Simon's stuff, but I feel like you couldn't have had the Simon stuff if he hadn't gone on this journey with Fionna and Cake. Like they're literally connected through his own brain. So like they feel like a package deal, and they kind of, you know, they're figuring out their own personal stuff together. I even liked like having a little tiny bit of like Finn in there, seeing Finn in this kind of format versus like who he is in Distant Lands was really cool because like I think one of my favorite things about including him juxtaposed to Fionna was that for Finn it's like he's in this mode, this young adult mode of just like adventuring is everything. You can solve all your problems with like the right adventure. And like Simon really does not like take to that at all as a strategy. Whereas for Fionna, like when she starts actually going on these adventures in these different worlds, like she starts to really question the validity of that as like a dream to have and like a way of being. And she realizes it's more complicated, and it like kind of makes her feel sort of down towards the middle of those episodes. And I really like that in comparison to what they're doing with Finn. Because it seems like he very much does not like think of things that way right now. And that's very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's a good point that we have these connective threads, like our presentation of older Finn compared to Fionna as she starts out as like an adventure or whatever, and her reaction to violence, which was one of my favorite parts of the show. Yeah. Alex, how about you? How do all the different elements play? And like, how does like the older Finn stuff and like seeing after Adventure Time, does it feel like weightier than other things going on? I don't know.
I mean, when you describe the show as being a couple of different shows mashed together, like, I don't know if I totally vibe with that, because I feel like as Michelle mentioned, the concept of Fionna and Cake, even in the main show, was entwined with Ice King / Simon enough that like that felt like such a natural pairing. And I think that during the show, they never really like act separately, like especially in the second half of the show, like either Fionna and Cake and Simon are pretty much always together. And I feel like the show does a good job of like using them as the vehicle to check around other corners of the Adventure Time universe. So yeah, we do get the peek into different versions of Finn. We get the peek into expanding our understanding of cosmic lore a little bit more. But like I feel like the show does a good job of always keeping the focus on the main characters. That helps it again to feel, at least to be, a lot more focused than a lot of Adventure Time generally is. So I would say that like I think that the show does a really good job of like giving us a chance to check into all these like different universes that Adventure Time has developed over the years without letting that dominate the main purpose of the show, which is following Fionna and Simon's character growth during this. And I think they both have similar character arcs as well, in terms of just like figuring out what their life is as an individual, as opposed to like in both cases like looking back on their past and be like, that was so much better. But like there's a way forward. I think that they do enough to be like to show the similarities in their journeys over the show. So I like how they handle the balance of wanting to take advantage of the fact that Adventure Time has its expansive multiverse without letting that drown the main storyline that they were aiming to tackle.
Yeah, and I agree that it's like it feels very cohesive. All these different things we're doing, I think it's very well done. Yeah, you mentioned the multiverse. What do we think of this approach to kind of center it in the multiverse and Prismo, and then The way I see the show, it's like kind of like episodes 1 to 4 is like establishing what's going on here, and then we get into like 5 to 8 or whatever of like different multiverse versions of their world. And I guess Adventure Time has always had this aspect, but it's not like not like Prisma was like constantly involved or anything. So I guess Michelle, how did the multiverses work for you, and any particular favorites?
I enjoyed the multiverses. I think doing multiverse stuff can get a little overwhelming if it's like leaning really heavily into like callbacks and Easter eggs and referential stuff that only like the truest true fans can appreciate. And I feel like for this show, there was a good mixture. There were worlds that were completely new and you had no frame of reference for it, and then there were a couple that like having a little more understanding of like say Farm World or say Jerry World. It helps to have some background, but you don't super need it to follow the plot of what's going on in those either. So I feel like they could have gone so much harder, and I kind of appreciate the restraint with callbacks for the multiverses. God, I mean, I feel like Winter King World is definitely my favorite. That was such a fun episode. Yeah. The Small Blue guest animation on it, just like the songs. I love both of those songs so much. And it was the most just kind of like, man, like I feel like we're getting a little into like Once-ler territory here with like being able to ship Winter King and Simon. And like, it's been a while since I feel like some of us have had that urge to just really get back into cursed ship pairings, you know? And this was a gift to be given, a surprising gift. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the multiverses. I liked seeing like the callbacks we did get. I think they made a lot of sense. The one thing I was really shocked about was like, I think like I'd made this note on the Discord like a couple years ago when I was doing my big watch of Adventure Time, but the Up a Tree episode is like unironically my favorite episode of Adventure Time, and that's the one where you like get to meet that like really dumb one squirrel and like the owl and his gang of like evil like tree cult people. And the fact that of all those things that could come back to the show, that's what they like decided to do for just like a gag, a reoccurring gag. Like that's truly amazing. I don't understand how that happened, but it's
the one-off squirrel voiced by Mark Maron shows up in the finale of Fionna and Cake. What a world!
It's like I can't believe he's for the finale. Like he has no right being here, but I'm so happy he's here. Someone else in the crew also loves Up a Tree. And I'm same brain. I'm very happy about that.
For me, I don't remember this episode. And by the way, I've watched every episode of Adventure Time. To be clear, I've watched every episode, but I don't remember anything. I feel like I recognize the vibes, even if I don't remember the specific reference. I feel like so I don't know. I think it's successful enough. But yeah, that's really interesting. Alex, how about you? What about the different multiverses?
I had a good time with them. I think. Yeah, they avoided doing too much. I thought they avoided doing too much new stuff. Like Winter King is definitely new, and everything else is at least like referenced or known from the old show. But like I think that they did enough. They never really stayed in one multiverse for more than like 2 episodes, I think. So none of them outstayed their welcome, and also, I mean, it's a limited series, so it's not like you get tired of the universe hopping either. So again, I think they did a good job of balancing out how many new realities we had to get adjusted to. In terms of favorites, I feel like I enjoyed the look back at Farm World, and I also think the vampire one was one where that one probably not fully referenced, but like a lot of it takes from Stakes in terms of like the vampire lore they built there, and I thought that was a fun imagining of what the world would be like if vampires had gotten dominance, and I think the Marceline bubblegum stuff in there was very nice for me. So there was a lot of fun visits we got to have in the miniseries.
Nice. Yeah. I think Winter King stood out as like for me, maybe it's just the episode's so good, but yeah, I think that and also that is like an alternate version where this one thing changed. I think that all really worked very well, and then it's like surprising what thing changed in the end. I guess my only like slight criticism with the use of the multiverses, and I still absolutely love everything overall, is like episodes 1 to 4 of like getting into everything and like experiencing and like figuring out what's going on felt like a lot more I don't know, impactful than like once we get into like, okay, we're kind of multiverse hopping. And I think that's maybe more just a result of that we're in like year 15 of multiverse culture.
Sure.
You know,
that's also a thing.
Yeah. So it's like we've seen similar before, but eventually the show did it so well, and each one was really interesting in its own way. And yeah, it was still only like a few episodes, and then we got into the finale stuff. So I do think it still stayed fresh enough. I don't think we've talked enough about, we can come back to the specific multiverse. I don't think we've talked enough about like the setup with Fionna and Cake's world without magic, and episode 1 with the sitcom intro and everything. Yeah. And then we revisited, I guess, most prominently with Gary and Marshall a few times, but, and then we're back there at the end. Did you enjoy the more slice of life Adventure Time?
Sure. If the show had been entirely that, I honestly would have been fine with that too.
Yeah.
It's great that they decided to do this whole like multiverse hopping. We also got to dig into Simon's traumatic past. But if it was just like, let's reimagine Fionna and Cake as a coffee shop AU, I'm down for it.
I was a little disappointed that we moved away from it after like episode 1 or 2, honestly. We did come back at the end. We were back enough, but I was kind of enjoying that, honestly.
I wanted to see her get more odd jobs.
Yeah, is good. And I don't know, what about the Gary Marshall focus here?
So good. That was one of my high points. It was so great seeing them come together and like figure their stuff out. And like get to know each other deeper. And by the time they're dating at the end, it's like, yeah, it's very believable. They shared a couple really good days/weeks ? Unclear how time moved in that world. But yeah, they felt really great together by the end.
Also, that sequence at the end of The Star where they're like cutting between Marshalline and Gary, and also Marshalline and Bubblegum in that universe, and the romantic tension they're also doing. It's like, oh, in so many universes they're gonna be together, and it heightens it in a way that just like the first time I watched it, I was just like, this is good.
Yeah, also like in a weird way, a bubbling kind of check-in / multiversal expansion going on in the show, but in a way that obviously made sense for the premise being Fionna and Cake. But we only really get like one scene of actual bubbling, right? But it's still, I don't know, it felt fulfilling in a weird way for seeing different versions of them. I thought that was cool how they did that. I was happy to see Donald Glover back, right, in this.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of surprising, but I guess not. I don't know. And Andrew Reynolds did a really good job too. I guess that was Neil Patrick Harris originally.
It was. I'm assuming either he was probably just too expensive.
Yeah, a couple of recasting choices in the show. I think most of them pay off all right. I salute Jinx Monsoon for attempting to take over Lemongrab. A very hard task to try. Yeah,
it was a fun Lemongrab cameo. I knew everything with Prismo and the voice actor situation. But I thought he sounded similar too, right? And yeah, I don't know, any highlights from their normal non-magic world stuff. And I just think such a striking choice to not put it back in the same way to how it was in the show.
I mean, I liked Cake's original design actually before they turn her back into adventure. I'm a cat person, so I just like it look like a normal cat. But also setting up Fionna as this character kind of unsatisfied with her life and feeling like something used to be better but can't quite put her finger on it, and seeing that get developed over the show, and then to the point where it turns around. It's like, no, I actually want to live in that world. That feels right now. And like the way she gets to that conclusion feels earned. So like, but the way it starts off, setting her up, I thought it was really, really funny. Especially like her scene on the bus tour. I think there's a lot of good moments in there. So a big piece of why this show is great is I think Fiona is just a very charming character, and her rapport with Cake is very good, and that needs to work for this show to work, and it does. So I'm very happy that we got a lot of them interacting and bouncing off of each other, especially once Cake begins to talk, which she does not for the first first episode.
Yeah. Hot take, I guess. Fionna and Cake, big upgrade over Finn and Jake for me.
Whoa.
I don't know about upgrade. It was in terms of likability, I think it's a big upgrade, at least. In some ways. I don't know. I don't know if other people agree with this.
I feel like they're pretty separate, and even in Adventure Time proper, even when they were just like fan fiction that would occasionally pop out every couple seasons, I think it was always intentional that Fionna and Cake would not be a one-to-one with Finn and Jake or their universe, and like all the gender bent personalities would be a little different. They wouldn't be exact like gender bent carbon copies of each other. They kind of had their own life in their own slightly different world. So I think like the fact that Fionna and Cake the mini-series like is even more that way makes total sense. I mean, I really enjoy Fionna and Cake. I feel like they satisfy a different need for me than Finn and Jake, and I am very invested in their stuff. I'm like relatively invested in Finn and Jake, but I think that's more of a preference thing than one being necessarily stronger. I do love that like Fionna and Cake like kind of start having like issues with each other towards the back half of the season. Like that was like, oh no, not the buddies. The buddies are having misunderstandings about what to do and how to do it. But also it's like, yeah, again, this show wants to get into stuff that's a little more complicated, and I love it for that.
I think also, the aim of this show being slightly different than Adventure Time in terms of audience does affect like how they portray the personalities. I mean, Finn, for the longest time, was as a teen boy, was portrayed, I think, accurately as a teen boy, like making good decisions and bad decisions and good decisions and going back on that. And it was like a real back and forth in terms of maturity, which makes it an interesting choice where they seem to like say like, no, even as an adult, he continues that way. But like, whereas with Fionna and Cake, I feel like they start them at a higher level of maturity than where we started with Finn, so that gives us a bit of a head start on relatability.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Finn and Jake are always kind of purposefully. I don't know if purposefully unlikable is the right word, but purposefully like they're not like the super likable, no flaws type of characters. That's always kind of their thing. And I think it's to great effect too. So I don't even necessarily, I'm not saying it's necessarily an improvement in terms of like characterization. You know, it's hard to compare this one season to everything we got with Finn and Jake, which was so much. But it was definitely nice to see the different personalities. I agree that with the original or the human Cake design, the actual cat, when Prismo changes them in 4, I was kind of like, I don't know. I kind of would prefer if Cake was actually a cat. I think she was kind of cuter there. Also, I just love Cake in episode 3, exploring and getting the voice and singing the Cake song and destroying everything. I loved everything with Cake there. Yeah, but I guess I don't know. Honestly, Fionna too. I think I prefer with the design of the original clothes. But it was that whole scene, I think, with 4 with Prisma was really fun when he's changing everything.
The switch to shorts, good call.
I mean, it was all a good call because, again, I like the more her outfit got away from being just like Finn's outfit, but for a girl, like the nicer it felt, and the more like, oh yeah, this is her show. It's gonna be different. Like even her outfit's gonna be pretty different, and for her to be able to choose her own outfit felt kind of nice too.
Speaking of this, how about the fact that we're changing the premise of Fionna and Cake from it being Ice King's fanfic to
real?
It's real, and it was Prismo's origin.
Yeah.
So the very last Fionna and Cake episode did set this up because like they show at the end of the episode that there is like a beam going into Ice King's head while he's thinking about Fionna and Cake. So they had set up this possibility. It's not a total retcon.
Such a deep lore.
I know. I'm like, damn.
10 years ago.
Pull that out of your pocket. It's been waiting.
Yeah. I mean, how many plot threads does the show have that I guess that this is like a payoff for a lot of things. But I mean, I think like the big thing is it's just so much of the continuing crew. I think with the show, you just see all the same names for the most part. So in that regard, it's just really cool to see them get to just continually iterate on the story and follow up on things like this. But yeah, Alex, how do you think that was handled with introducing Prismo as what's going on here and the explanation for everything?
Yeah, the explanation of all the different multiverses being the results of wishes, I thought was like it like makes enough sense with the show, especially the Farm World episodes. But like it felt like an extension of what had previously been established. But I'm okay with that. Like it was like Prismo's just opening up new possibilities left and right. I thought they had to explain it pretty quickly so that it wasn't like it doesn't like occupy too, because at the end of the day the details aren't that important. It's just like there's a multiverse. Fionna and Cake are going to be escaping this scarab guy and hiding in the different universes. We don't need too much of the details, but I think they explained enough that it like made sense within previously established information. Prismo is being kind of depressed after Jake's dead. Sort of checks out. It was kind of sad to see a lot of depressed characters in this show. Prismo was always a fun character to check in on. He was also like maybe like once a season, maybe twice in those like later years of Adventure Time. So I'm glad he showed up a decent amount here, and he serves his purpose enough of directing the lore. Being I remember there's like a sequence during the main show where he's just like pulling up like Adobe Premiere or something to edit universes, and that's basically his vibe here too. He's just like a puppet master, although he gets locked up for a chunk of this, but. Yeah, he is one of my favorite video editors out there. Michelle, you're also one of those.
Thanks.
Yeah. Does Prismo make AMVs? I mean, he must.
He better. Yeah, I mean, Fionna and Cake is like I love that he like it didn't occur to him until later. Oh, I guess I just literally made Jake and Finn, but different gender. No, Prismo is great. I love seeing him again.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with how much Prismo we got here, and I did really like that sequence with him accidentally into Finn and Jake. I think all that's really fun. Anything from actual Ooh that post Adventure Time that was anything surprising? The human city, seeing older Finn. I don't know, what are the other highlights? Like the job that Simon is working at.
Oh my god, what a miserable job.
They found a good way to make his life feel
horrible
as possible.
Yeah.
It's like you can only go up from here because like he is truly being treated as an antique, and like who's gonna feel like they have a good life like that, man? So They set up Simon at a very low spot that made enough sense. I like that little girl who's a fan of the Fionna and Cake stories. I thought she was nice.
She is relentless. Good for her. I found it interesting that Marceline kind of didn't have time for Simon in this instance of their lives. But also I think it makes sense because things are finally going right with Princess Bubblegum. And that's been such a like will they, won't they for forever for them. So like I get it. Like she's kind of being swept away with bubblegum and like doing her stuff. But it is like, yeah, Simon needs more friends. Simon needs more stuff to do. Like that's not like the whole reason he's depressed. He's been through a lot, but it's part of it because once he starts hanging out with new friends, he starts feeling a little better and like life's not so pointless anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you could see Fionna and Cake as Simon gets some other friends. As the
yeah.
main
Oh,
conversion.
absolutely. They might be from his brain, but still, like, there's.
That's true.
I think that's why Betty helps him out at the end because he's like, but I met Fionna and Cake, and Betty's like, oh wow, you finally have somebody else in your life. Thank goodness.
Thank God, yeah.
I need to facilitate this.
Yeah. How about Big Finn and okay, I think it's a good time to talk about the violence aspect of. Yes. I was just shocked in episode 2 watching Finn just really gore out these creatures.
Gore out's a good way to put it. That is what happened.
Castlevania, these creatures like. I think different people have different reactions. Not everyone is as extreme on violence as I am, but I was so off put by what Finn was doing in this episode. I think that's the intention.
Yeah, I think so. Like for Simon's credit, I feel like we're supposed to feel more like him. Just like Jesus, this is not a way to solve problems at all. This just feels bad.
It was also like this Nausicaa forest. And,
yes. I knew you'd pick up on that.
Definitely Nausicaa, and then in that the tattoo artist was like the Steam Spirited Away Steam Room guy. But that's just these beautiful Nausicaa forest creatures that he's just ripping them apart. But I was like so off put, and then I was like, yeah, this kind of feels right for Finn, honestly, and like a sad way.
Yeah. It's a stage. It's a stage of his life. It's not a super glamorous stage.
And I like it as a commentary. This whole this whole show is doing of like this is the consequences of adventuring. So like blindly, yeah.
Well, and I think that's consistent with Finn's character from the main show too. Like he's always been like that. Of just like let's try to push through as much as I can until like the problem becomes unignorable, and then I have a crisis. So that's been his deal the entire time. It seems that never really changed for him. Too bad.
Yeah, to see Finn is, I mean, I'm sure he's matured in other ways, but to see it's still a lot of the same Finn from the show. I think it's this combination of kind of sad and kind of like cathartic in some way, seeing the evolution of the same character older. I don't know. It's definitely like was one of the more impactful feelings of the show for me. And to see it followed up, I think is the key from Fionna in episode 6 when she also gores out all the candy people. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing, and and then we have a whole thing about it too, and we talk about it, and she's not the same as Finn, and comment on the violence that we're seeing. I thought that was so well done. It's like one kind of 10, 15 different kind of themes that's going on. So there's just so much good stuff here, but to me, this is one of the standout theme things that the show had going. And we got any other thoughts on how that was handled with Fionna?
I agree. I liked it too. I mean, I feel really satisfied with Fiona's arc. And I feel like, again, I'm really glad Simon was a part of this show with her, because I feel like they both ended up kind of helping each other in a way, because she was like, it seems like the more information I'm getting with all the worlds we're going to, Simon's gonna be worse off if he actually gets a crown that makes him crazy. And Simon starts to be able to help Fionna with her problems, which I think like kind of takes him out of his head and in his wallowing in his Betty stuff. Not that he doesn't finally get closure with Betty, but I think even before that, he was a little on his way to kind of appreciating the current state of his life and like having things to focus on outside of himself, which was probably a big thing he needed and just wasn't able to get at the time.
Yeah, do we want to get into more about Simon and Betty backstory? I think we've probably talked the least about the Simon and Betty backstory, which I think ends up being one of the standout aspects of the show for me that we see. So what's the key episodes here? Episode 8, we see we get their song and we see the backstory with them, and then episode 10 we get with the bus stop scene, and then episode 10 we get the different version of the bus stop scene. I love how that was done. Like trying to replay it. And again, another theme where it's like you kind of identify a problem that is happening, and it's not like the show doesn't also, it's not like it's clear that the show also doesn't think that, but it's like, okay, are we going to get into this? And it does, right? Like we absolutely get into the power imbalance with the two of them, which is something that felt I don't know if I was like riding on Simon and Betty and like needing this to be addressed or anything, but like if we're gonna have it previously to this, but if we're gonna bring it up in such a major way in this show, this was like absolutely what we needed to talk about. And we get into the metaphor with the game that Shermie and Beth were playing. We haven't even talked about them.
Yeah, that looked awesome, by the way. I love the style of that whole game.
Yeah, I thought so too. So I thought ultimately just very well done and just very impactful, bringing up everything with them and what we saw with them in the show, and then ultimately like getting into this aspect of their relationship, which we hadn't really talked about. It had kind of just been hinted at by the story so far. What do you guys think about how they handled, I guess just in general, the Simon and Betty backstory, and then also kind of the power imbalance theme that we get into?
I think with Simon, I really appreciated episode 2 because like it sets up a lot of where he's currently at in the post Betty world of like I mean we already mentioned it, like he's living a bit of a pathetic occupation, but also like he's just doesn't really know what he is like outside of Ice King. That Rebecca Sugar song, which was, as always, Rebecca Sugar putting out bangers, like talking about like like outside of like the madness and sadness that has been my entire life, like I'm just a normal person now. What does that mean? What do I do? Like you're just kind of like stuck in this new situation without any way to go. Especially, and as we go through, like we see that he like dumps his entire self into getting Betty back, and like to the point of like my life doesn't matter anymore. And so we through his interactions with Fionna and Cake, as well as like being forced through this Shermie and Beth segment to like confront like his decision making during that whole process, he eventually gets to the point where like figuring out like, oh no, like this is a weird cycle of obsession that both of us are doing. I should, I don't need to continue going down that road. So I think the story like it would develop pretty well. They dropped these hints throughout the season. I mean, especially the Winter King. I think there's like a couple of tidbits they dropped through. Like one that I know a lot of people latched onto was when describing how they or when. Oh no, it probably wasn't the Winter King. It was probably Jerry. But like when they were describing the bus trip, and it like became clear that he didn't really ever consider like what Betty was doing as like something to generalize. It's like, okay, there's already a problem there. So like a small, if I had to nitpick and like find a thing that I didn't like about the show, I would just say like, it's telegraphed pretty well. So like by the time you get to the revelation, the quote unquote revelation in the final 2 episodes, the show has kind of like spelled it out for you if you picked up all the things. But like even so, I think overall the story is told pretty well, and it makes clear things that had been hinted along in the main show as well as like earlier in this series, and like lays them out clearly and gets Simon to a place that like I feel good about him, that he got to that relatively on his own.
Yeah, I just think in general with the revelations in episode 10, just shows discussing like a healthy relationship that still has like a power imbalance issues just seems so rare, and it seems so meaningful to me, like that the way it did it, it's like, okay, it's not like they were so terrible and it's like this was awful or anything, but this was an issue that is a real thing and should have been thought of and should be considered moving forward. and just just kind of how that's handled, just the nuance in all of that. In a show with so much going on that isn't necessarily like super nuanced in everything that it's going on, it felt very nuanced and meaningful in its presentation to me. Ultimately, how we get into them.
I really appreciated the way the Simon and Betty stuff shook out, because like I will say, as someone who watched Adventure Time, when Betty became like a real character in those later seasons, I was like very against it. I was like, why is this necessary? I mean, knowing Ice King went crazy, knowing that he considered this old flame his princess, and that's why when he's the Ice King, he thinks of all princesses as really emotionally important to him, and it just got scrambled in his mind because of the crown. Like, that's already sad enough. Like, initially I was just like, why do we need to like make this a real character and bring Betty in and like demystify part of what was so sad about unlocking Ice King's early backstory? And like, and then like Betty came in, and I don't remember anything because there's like 10 seasons of the show, but like, she like, I think she she doesn't hook up, sorry, but she like tag teams with Magic Man, and then like she kind of goes crazy, and then it's like a back and forth of like who's gonna be crazy or saving the other person. I was just like, we have really lost the thread of just like season 2 Ice King and just him being sad and crazy, man. Like, I wish we could go back to that. This feels very unruly. So in the finale, I was just like, all right, I guess he's Simon now. And then Betty's absorbed into the god, and all right, that's an interesting way to end their stuff, I guess. So when he started talking about Betty and Fionna and Cake, I was like, no, not more Betty, no. Like, why? Why does this keep happening? There's more going on with him than this person. But then that kind of became like the whole point of their arc in the show. And it was really satisfying to see that, like, yeah, they were very obsessed with each other, and there was a super big power imbalance. But like, in the name of their very obsessive love, they just were like, no, this is fine, nothing's wrong. And then like, it made more things about how everything played out in Adventure Time make a little more sense to me. I think like maybe I wouldn't be as judgy going back to watch all the interesting Betty plots a second time. But I think like they had like a couple things they really wanted to say, and they said those things very well, and they're very consistent. And so like, for me, I don't consider it an issue that you could kind of figure out where you're going. I think it's more of a problem if you don't know where you're going. Sometimes you're like, wait, how did we get here? There was no lead up. Like, we're just supposed to believe this because you told us to. Show that doesn't make sense. So, because I was wondering, like, a few of those moments, like when Simon's talking to Winter King, and he's like, oh, Betty though, and he's like, Betty though, like, I don't care about Betty. And it's like, what does that mean? Like, is this inconsistent? Their crazy love is not the same in every multiverse? Or just like, yeah, when Fionna is hearing the backstory, she's like, oh, so you like definitely went with her on her trip, right? He's like, what? No, why would I do that? It's like, well, what does this mean? Like, are they codependent? Like, is it obsession? Like, and so then you figure out, like, oh, it's a power imbalance. Okay, that makes total sense. So I didn't 100% know quite where they were going. I just knew that it looks like they were setting up a concerning dynamic of some kind with their relationship. But by the end, it felt very well earned. And I love the fact that, like, finally, because again, this is another thing that was bothering me. It's like, it's part of the reason Ice King is so sad being Ice King is like, yeah, the damage is done. He's going to be crazy forever. And he lost the love of his life. And he's like this now. That sucks. But there's like stakes to that. And when Betty becomes your character, it's like, wait, so like, the future can just change like that? Like, big giant canon things can just change and she could turn him back into Simon? Like, this feels insane. Does anything matter? Are there any stakes at all? So like, I really liked that the end of this was like having closure with the fact that Simon couldn't actually change anything about what happened to Betty or himself. Like, he's not with her. She's still trapped in the the god of the, I don't know, Alex, you know exactly what it's called. I'm sure I know. It has like 4 names, right?
Gold god. It's a same
yeah.
thing.
But it's like all that's still really sad and is like permanent now. And the thing that can change is just how he feels about his life and what he makes of his life. And that's like the last gift Betty could give him in her slew of gifts that maybe she shouldn't have been giving him and he shouldn't have been receiving. But like the damage is done and this seems permanent. And that's like part of, I think, what I was looking for. I just wanted like permanent, sort of sad stakes that like actually had weight to them. And I feel like the balance is a little restored in that sense now, finally.
Nice. It really feels like everything with Simon and Betty in this miniseries feels like a very necessary follow-up to the finale. Yeah. Which is weird because it's like maybe the show would have never happened. Yeah. but I think then I remember, okay, I think Adventure Time was kind of canceled. And then so I think they maybe had stuff come up quicker than they might have otherwise planned. So maybe this is their way of getting in a lot of stuff that they would have otherwise put in the last season of the show or a follow-up season. I don't know. But yeah, I didn't know that I needed such a Simon and Betty follow up until I saw everything that happened here. And then it's like, okay, of course, all this really, if this is what was needed, if this is what we were saying, then yeah, we really needed to say all this. And I thought it was done so well. And in terms of like, telegraphing like all the messaging, I think like the power imbalance message, this is something you don't want to be super nuanced about. I just don't think a lot of audiences really understand this yet. Online people I think maybe get it a little bit more, but this is, at least in my opinion, at least in like kids-ish television, not very treaded upon territory. So I did appreciate us getting into pretty explicit territory about it in the finale. The book stuff metaphor is really interesting. It was an interesting way of doing it. And then Shermie and Beth was even more interesting in how we communicate that. Well, I also didn't expect a follow up on Shermie and Beth from the finale. Which are, what did we, I don't even remember what we talked. They're like the kind of like Finn and Jake future analog, from way in the future. And also one of them sounds like one of the Solar Opposites characters, which I don't think we knew at the time. But the
Wait,
show
what?
I didn't
sounds
know
exactly like you. You're like, well, sure. But it's the same guy. But yeah, it's Alex, were you surprised to check in on Shermie and Beth? Did you appreciate checking in on them?
I was a little surprised, yeah, and I appreciated it. I feel like they got, their appearance in the Adventure Time finale was like so weird because like that they had to pack so much stuff in there and to have this like framing device of the future and like BMO telling them like what happened in the finale was like, okay, we're like really trying to fit in a lot in here. So this felt like it gave them a little more time to breathe and be their own characters. Another recasting here. We didn't get Willow Smith back for Beth, alas, but the new actress did fine too. I thought it was cute. The little bit we got of actual Shermie and Beth together, I thought was fun, and then like Simon trapped in Shermie's body feels very rude of Gold Betty to do, but he needed it at that time, so. Just like a lot of cool future-y stuff. I think one of the threads that if you were to do a season 2 or a different Adventure Time spinoff, I think Shermie and Beth feels like one of the potential directions you could go in, because that's a part of Adventure Time lore that we don't totally know a lot about in terms of like far off in the future. You've got like your Grables episodes and whatnot, but like otherwise you have a lot to work with if you want to build new lore. So that feels... This feels like a good reintroduction and one that makes me feel a little more excited about a Shermie and Beth show, as opposed to if they had not done this and we only had the Come Along With Me version to work off of.
I guess the BMO from Come Along With Me, we don't really follow up on that. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess that could get into that more.
God, seeing that BMO, even if there are more BMOs in the infinite multiverse, God, if totally died. Oh, it's so brutal.
Yeah, we get the other BMO. I don't know if I'm in on a full Shermie and Beth season 2.
Wow.
I feel like it would work only if they're actually like getting back to characters that we know and like catching up on those characters and using them more as like a vehicle to see more stuff.
Yeah, they exist relative to other characters. I think that's their purpose. So exactly. I think like if we want to check in on them again a few times, I think that's okay. Or maybe half of them at most.
Just keep dialing it back.
I do like it's like okay, we just go back to Shermie and Beth in the finale, like how we randomly got them in the show finale. It kind of felt right. It's like this finale version. Anything? I guess we haven't. I don't know if we mentioned the word Scarab yet. Is that a sign that he's not good, or is we not given Scarab his due yet?
He's scary.
He gave me a lot of Agent Smith from the Matrix vibes. Like it's just like very one directional. You are a stain on our society. It's I think he uses like virus at some point. So like, it's a well trodden character trope, and he's I don't know if like the personality is quite there to make him like an engaging villain. I mean, his design is cool.
His design is cool. His voice is cool.
Yeah. So like, there's elements, but like, I think also like in a world where like Prismo and Golb exist, he's like small potatoes in comparison to. So Scarab was fine. He serves his purpose of like being the thing that Fionna and Cake and Simon have to run from and like propel them to the other universes. But he's functional.
I like that he eggs people. I think that's the most interesting thing. I like that intro scene with the coffee thing.
That was good. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I like him when he became like 20 smaller scarab beetles. They look so derpy. Like they were fun. I want more of them.
Yeah, we can put that into season 2 of the Scarab Beetles.
But the spin-off no one wants.
But by the way, I'm glad that that universe's LSP is just as infuriating as their behavior. God, the breaking of jars is just like.
Yeah. Any other? I mean, there was the boss. Anything else from the Prismo God type of lore that was presented?
Well, we still don't know who the ultimate boss in Adventure Time hierarchy is. So that's another thing that if you really wanted to do another season, I guess you could explore it. Honestly, I'm not that interested. Like, as I am aware that there are like floating gods of all types in this universe. Maybe you do like gods in the Office, where like they sort of did that in that sequence with Orbo or whatever. So like if you wanted to do that, I guess, but like that's not exactly the most compelling thing to me. But like that's out there for people who care about like power levels in the Adventure Time universe. That I guess there's someone like really high up that we still have never met.
Yeah, it is interesting that there are like other things other than Prismo in that type of realm. I guess we saw Glob and stuff too, right? But I feel like Prismo was the god for a while, at least functionally in the show. Seeing adjacent things is interesting.
A brief Cosmic Owl cameo.
Cosmic Owl. We could get more into Cosmic Owl. There's so much. There's so many characters. Okay, honestly. Back to checking in on the multiverse in case we have more to say on each of them. Alex, how was Farm World presented?
I thought Farm World was an interesting one to come back to because like it was such a big deal in like the middle of Adventure Time, like right when like the Lich was like the big bad of the series before it kind of diminished. But yeah, I definitely had to look up some YouTube timelines to refresh myself on like what the heck happened here. But I had a good time with that episode. I think the Finn portrayal there was really nice, and Jay is a fun character. The forbidden romance thing was a nice spice to throw in there to make some interesting character dynamics add to the post-apocalyptic universe.
Were those characters from the show, or were those new characters? The romance.
I think they were new because I'm pretty sure this is a lot farther in the future than where we saw it in the main show. So like in the main show, we kind of left them off where Farm World Finn had been freed of the crown, but he was still like the age of the Finn we knew. But here we're seeing really adult Finn, like already has kids. So like, yeah, I think this is like a time jump from where we last saw the Farm World universe.
Okay, so it's basically new, all new stuff going on.
Yeah, the Destiny gang, the main guy, he was in the original episode. Big Destiny, I think his name is.
Okay, I think it basically functions as like Mad Max world anyway.
Yeah.
Like a kind of standard multiversal thing to get into, and I guess it connects to something.
There was a bit in that episode where they're having dinner together, and Simon is trying to slip a Ship of Theseus reference to them, and they're just like not willing to go along with it.
Yeah,
that I particularly enjoyed. I thought that was a good bit.
I did like that. Yeah, that was good. We talked about Winter King World already. I do like both songs here.
They're good. They're bangers.
Yeah, the Winter Wonderworld has the gorgeous animation. And then Baked with Love, I think, is really fun too.
Yeah.
And that plays as just a song to put on. I've been listening to all these.
Yeah, I don't really think Bubblegum ever got any songs in the main show. So like, but Hynden Walch finally getting to display that a little bit was a nice payoff. And also, yeah, get Brian David Gilbert to do any cursed character who also has to be handsome to certain people.
Certain people. Dang.
Was handsome to the main character of the show, you know?
Yeah. I'm just saying, he works very well for a certain piece of the population, and
Dang. Alex isn't like other boys, okay?
Who's the heartthrob? Your heartthrob of the show, Alex?
Is
it Scarab?
Is it the dumb squirrel, Alex?
No, I mean, honestly, Gary is a nice lad. I would love to be in his bakery and
together.
Okay, it's a good one. Maybe both Gary and Marshall.
Both Gary and Marshall Lee are hot. And
they're very hot.
They're a good couple because they look good together, partially.
Marshall knew what he was doing when he showed up in a towel.
When
he meets Gary for the first time.
It was good, yeah. How about anything from Vampire World? I think I've seen fan art, so this seems popular. The bub line in here.
Yeah. Huntress Wizard appearance was nice. You get Finn's dad being a good guy, which that's a little disorienting.
Relative good guy.
Yeah. On the good side.
On the good
side.
Yeah, sure. Good adjacent.
But better than the vampires, and he's an opportunist. See, it makes sense. But also, like in terms of hotness, I mean, Marceline's outfits in this episode were on fire. They're really good.
Yeah, I feel like Vampire World is we go She-Ra for one episode.
Oh yeah,
we go hard into that type of dynamic. That was fun, and yeah, I do really like how we juxtapose with the Gary and Marshall stuff. Anything from Jerry World?
Jerry World's scary.
Yeah, I mean that first moment where like Lich shows up and it's like, oh boy, this guy's back. How are we gonna fit him in here? And the idea to make him like he actually did it, and now he's just like depressed, like what I do. It's funny to think because of how menacing he was for all of his appearances, to finally see him in a bit of a pathetic state, and also weirdly it also fits with Fiona and Simon in terms of where do I go from here? That's all these characters, and the Lich is in the same place. It's I did a thing in the past, and that's defined me. So now what?
Fionna and Cake, everyone gets an existential crisis, even the Lich. Yeah. I thought that was fun. And yeah, I feel like, I like seeing the Lich. In my mind, Lich is super iconic, stands out from all the Adventure Time stuff. I think you could do more Lich stuff, maybe, in a future thing. Oh,
also that, for me, the violence stuff didn't really hit with me, but the sequence where Golb dismantles the Lich into a Tetris piece, I like that. I was like, okay, this is a good use of your upper rating here.
Yeah. What episode does Finn get stabbed? One of the alternate Finns. 5? Is it the end of 5? Something like that. I wrote that down as a shocking, violent moment. Yeah. Anything else from the multiverses?
This is very random, but like in that like last scene where Simon is like stepping on different stones that represent the universes, one of them he steps on was the water park prank universe, which I thought was a good Easter egg joke for people who follow why they consider one of the worst episodes of Adventure Time. So like wow. I found it funny that they acknowledged that one as its own universe.
Nice. Okay, how about that? I don't think we talked enough about the songs. I think we mentioned, but I feel like a big part of the success of Fionna and Cake is that it's very musical. I don't know if I'd say it's like a full musical series, but at least like half the episodes have 1 or 2 songs, which I thought was very successful. That being said, I'm very pro musical, so I'm biased in these shows. Michelle, how did all the songs work for you?
I liked all of them. I think my top 3 would be Not Myself, Winter Wonderland, and Baked with Love for sure. But I mean, Part of the Madness is solid. The Blue Shift song that they put in was also great. Honestly, I've only watched it once also, so if I rewatched it, I think I would have a stronger impression of the music overall. But I mean, I was always like, yeah, I like this anytime any of the music was happening.
Yeah, I've been listening on Spotify. They put the soundtrack on, so I've been re-listening to all the music. Also, I didn't rewatch any of the full episodes, but I rewatched the songs, which I think is like a good way to get a lot of the prominent scenes, especially because they a lot of times accompany the great animation, especially like Winter Wonderland. Alex, how about you? How'd the songs work in the show?
Yeah, I think they were all used pretty well. I think we had already mentioned most of them over the course of this discussion. Yeah. So like the fact that they were intertwined well with the sequences we're talking about, I think reflects that. As I mentioned, I like Part of the Madness a lot because I think it fits well with the story, and also is just like a very nice vibe to it. I did like Not Myself sitcom intro, worked pretty well, and Baked with Love. I thought that was very silly and cute and fun.
Nice.
That last song, the Blue Shift one, it definitely felt like, okay, yeah, this is the type of song you play in a time skip epilogue.
Well, it was well placed then.
Yeah.
It feels like a epilogue ending song, but I loved it in there. I thought that worked with it. I didn't expect so much Baked with Love on from the panel, so that's good to hear, because that is one of the ones I've been listening to more.
The part at the end where Simon is like, oh, that's a neat metaphor, and then she's just like, not a metaphor. Da, 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 da.
I know. I don't think that's in the album version, but that's like the funny coda to it. Yeah, it's so good. Not a metaphor. I love that. I want to give love to Cake on the Loose. One of my faves. Love Cake. Just Cake. That whole episode, just Cake with the voice thing, experiencing the world, tearing things up, and just Roz Ryan, such a great singer, such a vocalist. I thought that song's so good. And I really like Blue Shift at the end. Not on the soundtrack, but I guess in the credits. And Everything in You, the Simon and Betty song. I think that's really good too. And I think you only hear part of it in the episode. And the full
I haven't heard
really
the whole
good.
thing. Ooh.
It's really good, yeah.
Also, I will call out the little piece of music used for the actual show intro. Very chaotic, which I think fits the show. Like a lot.
Yeah, what do you think of the intro difference from not the Adventure Time? You know, such a big change, I feel like, from the Adventure Time intro.
I think you needed it. I think if you want to make sure this is a totally separate show, do a very different opening, and I think they did that. All like the glitchiness and again like the discordance of the music, and like ending out just like the void. It's all just like this is going to be a totally different vibe to what Adventure Time was. So I really like that intro, for as short as it is. I wish the piece of music was longer, but I liked it every time. I never hit skip intro is my for it.
Nice. Yeah, I think it feels very representative of the series, so I think that's good. I feel like people are going to say we haven't talked about Part of the Madness enough, but I think good use of Rebecca Sugar type song with Simon establishing where Simon's at, and as the ending to that episode, I thought that felt very fitting, and I think pretty essential in establishing the tone of Simon throughout the show. His depression theme song, I don't know, was that got like a
depression theme song? Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah,
I think Rebecca Sugar songs are always that.
Yeah, well, especially later on. Yeah,
go seek out their new album coming out in there.
You go, yeah.
Let's see if they're all a part of this. So yeah, that was good to see. Rebecca Sugar did the steak song, right? Were there.
Yeah, everything stays.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I wanted to say this is very important. As Ice King, Everything Bagel, Everything Stays parody
that
song.
Was so great.
I love that. Where is Everything Bagel on the soundtrack? It's not there. Why do
Wait,
we not
what?
have the full version of Everything Bagel?
Oh, come on. Yeah, come on, guys.
I was loving that. That was episode 8. Okay, there's so much random good stuff throughout, I feel like. I'm trying to look through my notes. Alex, what have we not hit on that you would like to talk about more?
I'm trying. I feel like we've hit a lot of the big pieces. Yeah, I guess Golb stuff. I don't know if there's much to talk about there. So the only thing that I am left thinking about on rewatch, I noticed that like when they like part ways, they like show Golbetti like shrinking and like turning into blue light. So like I'm like curious if they're like setting up something there where like because they finally got closure, Betty can also go back to being herself. I don't know. They didn't bother to like follow up on that, so it's probably not that important, at least for now. But like I wonder if they're like leaving the door open for like, is there a chance Betty could come back? I don't know. And I don't know how I feel about that because as Michelle mentioned, right, like a big piece of this is that there is closure between Simon and Betty, that they don't have to really interact anymore. They've gone their separate ways. So like, does that still work if there's a way where she's no longer Gold? I don't know. And I don't even know if that's what they're hinting at, but it just stood out to me on rewatch. It's like, oh, they're holding on this for a little bit. I wonder.
Yeah, it does kind of seem like Golb is going away at the end. I thought that too. I guess my counterpoint to Betty coming back is just that within the messaging of the power imbalance, it's like, okay, Simon gets to have this like revelation and gets to live his life and try, but Betty's still kind of made the sacrifice and is still trapped and like doesn't get to do anything. So I could see some weight there of like Betty gets to live a life outside of sacrificing for Simon. Following up on that.
Maybe that'll be part of like her being merged with the god being, because
right, it could just be that we see inside Golb's mind.
That's a new chapter for her. Yeah. She has way more power now than she's ever had before. It's a new weird life, but it is kind of her life now.
Maybe we see that she's still herself in there and still has autonomy and like and gets to be God apart from being with Simon, and that's kind of the closure to that. It's not like you can really do anything given the state of where they're at, but that does feel a little weird, leaving it off there. Not that everything needs to be clean.
Yeah, and like one thing, I don't know if Fionna and Cake ever touches on. Does it remind us why Betty turned into Golb, or no?
We see no,
it does not remind us.
Okay, so from the finale, the reason she is Golb is because her final wish is I want a way to keep Simon safe.
Yeah.
So, considering where we end up at in this, do we think that she still like needs that power, right? Because like the end result of this show is that they are both individuals making their own decisions. They don't need to be codependent. So like I can sort of see a world where it's like the wish has been fulfilled, you know? Like Betty doesn't need to have this power anymore because she doesn't need to be watching over Simon anymore.
Yeah. I think you could do it if you want. I think like if they want to, we can come up with an explanation. But I like that idea too. I feel like reading the show, I think probably Betty would be one of the things they would want to follow up on more, but I'm not 100% sure.
Michelle sounds so thrilled about that.
Just let it go! Let it go! There's so many other characters. We don't need to think about Simon and Betty anymore. It's fine. Like, this was their show. Now it's over. Let's focus. You know what I want? I want to see Tree Trunks. I want to see what she does.
Tree Trunks without that voice.
I know, but I still want to see Tree Trunks.
Yeah, what notable characters are absent from?
All of her lovers, all 25 of them.
How did you enjoy that silent film sequence, Michelle, for her running over her ex with the train?
Oh my god, that ruled! Like, Tree Trunks is just the best. I'm so proud of her, just getting whatever she wants in her old age. Like, that's apple pie. Like, what more do you need? She's a player. Good for her.
I guess there's a lot of characters we didn't like that are older that would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't really see if we're. I mean, they can just do like continue the Adventure Time future aspect.
We could follow Jake's kids. There's
Jake's kids.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of characters I would be happy to explore. Even like Peppermint Butler, like. I feel like he has an interesting life probably going on, right?
You know a character we haven't talked about yet? All the different variations of Choose Goose that
yes.
Choose Goose! Human Choose Goose is wild.
We got a human Choose Goose, we got a pond swan. Like, of all the characters like keep checking in every universe, Choose Goose.
There's a notable amount of Choose Goose.
Choose Goose and the Dumb Squirrel. These are the best characters. What are you talking about? They had to come back.
I
guess they had to come back.
They had to.
I do think, voice aside, more lemon grab stuff. I'm a huge lemon grab fan. Seeing more of that, more alternate universes would be funny.
Oh, they ruled. The two lemon grab ladies were so fun.
Yeah, I'm looking to see anything else said. I think we've Michelle. Anything we haven't talked about from the show, or other characters you're thinking of?
Oh God, I don't know. Mostly, honestly, just Tree Trunks. I just want to see Tree Trunks. Yeah, because like I don't know. I mean, is Cinnamon Roll still alive, or has he? I don't remember. What happened to him, Alex? What happened to him?
I think he's still around.
Is he still dating Flame Princess?
No.
Oh yeah, they broke up. That's right. It was very amiable. Okay.
Yeah, they're like knight and princess dynamic. Hey, Flame Princess, check out.
Cool.
Might be nice. We got a DJ Flame appearance for that. I think that was the only Flame Princess representation in this show.
That's so sad. All the princesses. There's a lot of princesses that we don't get to see.
We got Robot Turtle Princess at the library.
Oh my god, Robot Turtle Princess.
That's good. I also think if they want to just do more with bubbling, right? Like the actual our world versions of them. I think there's a lot there they could do. I mean, I guess we already see.
It's
fair amount of
like
them.
Obsidian follow up, right?
Yeah, I think we could do it. I don't know. And then Fionna and Cake are in communication with Simon at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, I guess, a path there. I do think I would welcome anything they wanted to do that was more like Fionna and Cake centered, kind of like this, them as a framing or centering of whatever other shenanigans we want to get into from the Adventure Time world, because I do enjoy them as the anchors to what was going on. I did think that was very successful in the show.
And they are technically officially a part of the multiverse proper now, so that implies they could travel for reals and not get in trouble anymore if they wanted to.
Is that how that works? I don't know.
I think so. I think so. It's not illegal for them to mess with stuff now.
And they're talking to someone else from another.
Yeah, they're already kind of.
Finn and Jake did it all the time.
Yeah, come on, equal
and they're the same. So they can do it. They meet Finn and Jake together.
That would be interesting.
They probably hate each other. I don't know.
Well, they're very different. I think just getting into their differences would be kind of cool.
The title is Fionna and Finn and Jake and Cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ampersand and then and. Yeah. Okay. We cracked it. Any Final thoughts on Fionna and Cake, Adventure Time: Fionna and Cake. Is Adventure Time mean that we can do other Adventure Time colons?
I think so.
Yeah.
Why not?
Adventure Time is one of the biggest properties that Cartoon Network / Mats have, and I would be very doubtful if they didn't continue to try finding new ways to keep mining. And it is a deep multiverse, as we've seen in Fionna and Cake. So I don't doubt that there are still good stories to pull out of it. Where we're early enough on that we're not quite at like the Star Wars stage yet of like really digging bottom of the barrel. So like I would be excited for any Adventure Time continued follow-ups we get in the coming years.
Yeah, I mean, Adventure Time's really old. It's
I think it's, baby. Yeah,
like that's a long time ago. It's pretty cool that it is still going in various forms here, and that there's still enough interest. Like Legend of Korra had not aired yet, right? Like this was a long time ago that this was Adventure Time was on. Yeah, I don't know. I think that could be exciting. Also, come on, let's get a Steven Universe show going, please. Some sort of spinoff.
I would love that if Rebecca wants to try doing a new show after spending so long in one universe. I also think that could be exciting for them. But like, I'm down for whatever they want to make. Obviously,
a new Rebecca show in any capacity would be amazing.
Yeah.
Bring back what was the show they referenced in here? Flapjack. Did they saw Flapjack as a different universe?
Oh my god, that's very funny.
That was a strange addition.
No, it wasn't, because Penn I think started storyboarding on that show along with like a lot of the other showrunners. So I think that was well placed.
Cool. Okay, so any other final Fionna and Cake thoughts?
It's a good show. I'm glad it had like a staggered release. Big fan of that. Glad it didn't get written off into oblivion. Glad about that. And I would love to see more. I don't know. Things are really weird right now, but this is one of the most successful like broadly popular IPs. So if anything was going to get money in the next couple of years, hopefully Adventure Time would be a top priority. So we will see. I hope it does. I would love to see more.
My final thought is that we haven't mentioned possibility Marshall Lee Gary series. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
Or you could do season 2 of this, and they're like even more of a main focus.
Sure.
Yeah, like maybe like Fiona's running around like dealing with drama in the multiverse, but they're just like doing slice of life stuff as the main A-plot storyline.
Yeah.
And are only very tangentially related to like the adventuring. That would be fun.
More slice of life. Yes, let's do it. Okay, that's what we need. I like it. But yeah, loved Fionna and Cake. It's, I think, one of the best shows of the year. I'm really high on it. I really liked it. So definitely was happy that we get to talk about it here, and let us know what you thought of Fionna and Cake in the comments anywhere you're listening. And I guess there's also some past Adventure Time podcast, not everything, if you want to check that out at overlyanimated.com. If you want to support us, consider that at Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Caroline, and thanks to our patron executive producer, Steve Michael M. Phoenician. Hope to get some other non-Ladybug podcasts. There's some good stuff coming up at the end of the year. That's very exciting, so be on the lookout for that. We will see, but I think some exciting times with animation this second half of 2023, so that's good. So make sure you're subscribed whenever that comes out to find more discussions there. Thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.